Hello there, Safehouse family.
Hi, Safehouse. How are you today?
Welcome back. I think we're back today for part two.
Part two
of developing a support system. We hope you enjoyed the last episode. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell for notifications. Going to be coming to you this week about the part two of support systems. I think we had a good discussion last week. We hope you all enjoyed the video. Keep the comments coming through. And we got a little bit more we want to share, but is there anything we want to recap from last week's discussion?
Yeah, I think in last week's discussion, we kind of talked about like the foundation, you know, like why do we even need a support system, you know, the benefits of it. You know, we kind of talked about, you know, how you can get good counsel. It's, you know, you have fellowship, there's the encouragement and the investment piece, which is very, very important. I think we both kind of talked about that, about how you have to be, when you're getting your support system, that you have to make sure that you can put something in, but that you can also take something out.
Yeah, it's a two-way investment.
It's a two-way investment, you know.
And then we laid out the starter kit where we talked about identifying your needs, taking a look at who's in your current network or inventorying what's out there, seeking out examples of mastery. And then, you know, while you're doing that, make sure you don't discount those non-obvious contributors to your support system. Oftentimes, we look for people with specific skills and a specific thing when there are really people that are just in your corner or your greatest cheerleaders, and you may not be able to identify the quote-unquote skill, but they have value because they are basically there to see you succeed. Yeah. So we don't want to discount that. And then, just like us, we want everyone to be pioneers. Seek out those.
We're still, like I said, we're still figuring it out ourselves. So we definitely, this is probably one of the places in our marriage that we definitely don't have completely on lock. But like I said, as Andre said, you know, we're pioneers in this. So we're getting some of it wrong.
But we'll figure it out because we're relentless.
Because we need people. I think when we first got married, you know, I think we were both, you know, even though he always says I'm an extrovert, but I think like when we were going through a lot of the issues that we had, we just kind of worked through them ourselves. And I still think we may have had a support system, but we just didn't tap into it. We just kind of figured out like, okay, well, we'll just fix our own problems.
Yeah, we didn't lever it at all.
Right, we didn't.
And it was, we probably introduced a lot more stress than we needed to go through.
Absolutely.
Just because we didn't sort of lean into that support system early on. You know?
I agree.
So hopefully there are couples out there that can learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
Save yourself a little bit of stress. You know.
Well, you know how that goes. So when we first got married, Andre has an uncle, we call him Uncle Charlie. And Uncle Charlie had given Andre a bit of advice. What was that advice, honey?
That advice was move as far away from your in-laws as physically possible.
Exactly. Not realizing that at some point we would probably need our in-laws as part of our support system. But that was a really big piece of advice. Yeah. And so we kind of, even though we didn't live that far from our in-laws, we still kept them at arm's length, especially when it came to whatever was going on in our marriage. And sometimes that was the right decision, but I'm not saying it was always the right decision because we probably could have used their help in a lot of instances.
In a lot of places,
yes.
Yeah. Now, it's funny that rationale is you move as far away as you possibly can because, you know, people won't just drop in on you. But the downside is when you live pretty far out, people pretty much come and stay the night. So
that is true. Yeah, they're like, hey, we in town.
Since we're here, we might as well just stay. So you get an opposite problem.
That is true. I didn't think about that, but that is true. Now, the funny part is, once again, as we talking about support system, which we didn't really lean into when we first got married, we lived around the corner from my parents.
We did.
You know, one day Andre ran away from home. And he ran away to my mama's house. I was like, dude, what are we doing?
And ran to my mother's house.
I had to go and get him from my mama's house. I'm like, okay, that is not how we leaned into the support system, sir. We never did that again.
My mom had my back.
She did.
She was my
She
support.
loved it. I was like, is Andre over there?
Yeah. We down in the basement.
Right. Right. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, those were the days.
Those were the days. So what do we say? You need a support system.
We do. So let's get into this. More about transitions, support system part 2. Now we're going to lean into some of the tools that you may have in your arsenal at your disposal. We all have tools. We just may not be aware of them all. So we're going to start off with a list of tools we've created. Challenge you to think about other tools you may have in your toolkit. But we think this is a good starter place.
Well, the starter place always in any type of support system is God.
Absolutely.
I mean, that absolutely has to be your foundation. Because if God isn't your foundation, no matter how many tools you use to build on that, it's going to eventually fall.
Absolutely.
So if you're making God as your foundation, then this is how these tools will help you to make sure that it's able to withstand whatever is going to come at you, because things are going to come at you, especially, like I said, when you transition. So like you said, if you have God as the foundation, and the principles of how he says you should build, because I think we kind of talked about that the last time, about how Jesus even built his circle. He had the 12, but then he had the 3, and then he had the 70, then he had all the other followers, and then in the book of Acts is 120, and so once again the church grows. So it's all about people. That's kind of like, that's one of the first things that a support system needs is people. Because sometimes when we get married, we're like, oh, I don't need people, I just need my husband, it's just gonna be me and him, me against the world. But that's not even the way the Bible does it. You really do need other people, especially when God is moving you, because most of the transitions that occur in our lives, it's because God is shifting us. We're either growing, God is moving us to a different location, but whatever the movement is, it's God really moving us, and he will introduce people into our lives to help us make the transition seamless. I feel like when we don't really kind of tap into people, when we're transitioning, it makes the transition harder. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right, but...
Oh, no. Yeah, I think you're right. And the basis of including God or partnering in God, as you start to look at this toolkit, God will start to reveal to you the people that you'll need. People that have either been where you've been, or people that are going where you're going, right? So people on either side, or people that are pioneering with you through the same task, so it's, you have people in all scenarios that can be used as co-laborers as you're going through this change, as you're starting to understand what a network looks like. And what's really great about partnering in people is the relationships you develop while you're going through a change, a transition. You build a bond, and it lasts.
You absolutely do.
We've been through a thing together, right? We learned a thing together. We accomplished a thing together. Or the couple says, or a person that's pouring into your life watched you achieve something, and knowing that they had a hand in that, it builds that relationship and that long-lasting sort of friendship that can happen as a result.
And I like that you said that that you really have to partner with God to determine who should be involved in your transition, because we talked before about proximity, because you're not going to tell everybody everything that's going on in your life. But God will give you people who you can really kind of be vulnerable with, depending on the type of transition that you're going through. And so you want to be able to know, like, who are my close 3? Who are the people that I can trust? Because whoever you're telling this information to, you have to know that they're trustworthy, that they have integrity, that they're not going to put your business on, Facebook or some type of social media. This is the space where it's so close that to me, these are the people you can cry with.
Yeah.
These are the people you can complain with, but there's no judgment. They're not going to say, oh, well, then you need to leave him, or is this or that. But they're going to listen objectively. Yeah. You need people who are going to listen to you objectively, people who are going to hold you accountable, and they're going to say, well, I get what you're saying, but in this situation, you were wrong, or you need to go back and apologize. But once again, that's not going to be everybody. Everybody doesn't get that level of access to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you said all those things, I was thinking the word discretion kept coming to mind.
That's good. Yeah.
You just want to make sure that you're bringing in people with good discretion. Because some people, they'll share information inadvertently. They're not trying to tear you down. They just got a big mouth. They like to talk. They like to talk about people's situations. They may be excited about what you're going through, and they feel like they're giving a testimony about what you're going through, but they're really putting all of your stuff out. And once again, we have to just be discerning about who we bring in, people that have discretion, people that have good judgment, people that have our interests at heart. Most of all, kind of equally yoked with people that have a faith.
Yeah.
You want to go with people that tend to have a faith, that can look beyond the physical things, that can pray with you and pray for the impossible.
Absolutely.
When all you see is the physical things going around you, you need people of all levels.
And I was going to say, when you start thinking about the people in your life, like I said, sometimes we, when we're going through a transition, we like to back away from family because we feel like, you never want your family to have to take sides.
Yeah.
But sometimes, God will show you that it's, some people in your family are people that you can trust, and that you can, divulge some information to, because they can, those are your best intercessors, your best prayer warriors, to say, well, okay, both of y'all gonna have to get yourselves together because this we not doing. I feel like that's how your mom was with us. If we were both acting crazy, she was like, okay, both of y'all just gonna have to get it together. She never really kind of took sides.
That's true.
She was the thing I loved about your mom was she was on both of our sides.
Yeah.
She was, and when I say both of our sides, she was on the side of us winning. She was on the side of us
as a unit,
right, succeeding. So she never really kind of picked us apart. It was always, okay, well, this is what you guys need to do. It wasn't like this is what you need to do or whatever. So once again, sometimes family can be a part of that close circle that you can share that type of information. And I think the last time we talked, you said sometimes too, like you said, sometimes has to be an expert, Let's be honest. Sometimes some of us just need counseling, and I know like it's almost kind of funny because, like I said, in the African American culture, we as soon as you say let's get counseling, it's like, oh, we just
we're not crazy,
right? We don't need counseling. We don't need anybody to come in and tell us what to do, but you do.
You do.
And sometimes you just need maintenance counseling. It doesn't even mean that anything is going wrong. It's just that, hey, let's find somebody who we can just kind of have conversations with, just to make sure everything is going okay.
True confessions. We're on that journey ourselves to try to find a maintenance counselor, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you don't know about these things, right? And the last thing you want to do is just sort of like suck it up and deal with it, and yet you have this like cancerous thing going on, and you're not leaning into people that say, no, that thing doesn't have to overtake you. It doesn't have to become cancerous. We can deal with that up front. So.
Yeah.
So, when we look at people, another group of people you should always strongly consider, and this is in line with making sure you tap into God, is your ministry leadership should be at the forefront of that. And once again, hard question to ask yourself, if your ministry leadership relationship is not there, are you planted at the right place? Because your pastors, the pastors' delegates, whoever's responsible for your care, the various ministers at your church, if there's a marriage ministry, as you are beginning to build your toolkit, those should be some of the prime resources that you lean into, because at the church, you're not going to get a more diverse group of experiences
absolutely
than you will at any sort of church situation if you're blessed to be part of a ministry. If you're not part of a ministry, then understand that may not be available to you. But if you are part of a ministry, definitely look to your church ministry leadership including your pastor, as a point of contact.
Yeah. So one of the our couples who are in Safehouse, Jasmine and Marshawn McKinley. I think we were talking about this before, and how it was just such a beautiful demonstration of their ministry leadership, and how he just kind of came in and helped them. It was during a church service. It was actually at the end of the church service. And so then their pastor, Pastor Clack, once again, when we talked about how you have to have God at the center of your support system, the Holy Spirit just began to speak to him about some of the issues that they were facing. And so he called Marshawn down to the altar, and he just began to prophetically speak to him like, hey, I know what you've been thinking. You're thinking about you want to do this and that. And so it was beautiful how he not only ministered to them about where they were, but he also helped them. So it was like, this is where you are, and this is how we're going to make sure you stay together. Yeah. Okay. And it wasn't just him and his wife that were doing that. He encouraged the whole church.
Yeah, he partnered in the whole congregation.
They took an offering, and I watched it later. And I'm like crying, like, oh my God, I didn't even know all this stuff was going on. And I gave an offering. But once again, what touched me was you can see that it wasn't just their pastor, but it was like you could tell that there was like for real investment in making sure that their marriage stayed intact, because they've only been married for 2 years. Yeah. And so once again, we think that the honeymoon phase just lasts forever.
No, that 1 in 5 years is the hot zone.
Yeah.
Because between 1 and 5 years, those are the make and break years, especially around year 4, year 5.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so no, they it was a beautiful demonstration, because, not only did he sort of listen to the Holy Spirit and sort of pour into him in the moment, he was able, because he was their pastor, to do the uncomfortable thing. You know, so whereas most of us wouldn't be able to put a couple out publicly like that, he was, look, I'm your pastor. I've been given authority to do this. So we're going to address this right now. I got people I'm going to partner in here to do with this. And then I think it was a couple of weeks later that they actually renewed their vows.
They renewed their vows.
And it was a big ceremony.
They had the wedding they had never had, because they got married initially during COVID. So they couldn't invite everybody. So now, like you said, a few weeks later, here they are having, she's got her own wedding gown and everything. And it's a whole church full of people. Yeah.
And so parents walking down the aisle. Now, so just imagine if we get into sort of our regular church psychology and we sort of keep everything to ourselves, how much they would have missed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
How much benefit they would not have been able to achieve by just holding on to that, keeping themselves, suffering in silence, not partnering their pastor, not listening, not connecting. All of that would have been bypassed.
Yeah, it would have been bypassed.
So just want to stress, get your ministry leadership involved.
Absolutely.
You can trust them. They're good people. They're called to God. I think that's that, when it comes to it.
They still, like I said, they're going strong.
They are.
And they needed that in that moment. And like I said, the fact that they were open to it, because some of us aren't, we like you said, because once again, we think we have it together, and we don't want to be that vulnerable with people, and so like you said, when God says, okay, no, I'm this is my way of helping you. When God sends help, he really actually will send people, believe it or not.
Yeah, he will.
He gonna send people.
Next category, I'm going to lump 3 of them together. So books, conferences, and podcasts, right? These are sort of external resources like you're watching right now, right?
Absolutely.
So you have authors, specialists, you have people that are credentialed, you have people that have life experience, you have various people that have various points of view and various access to resources on marriage. It's okay to tap into those things. Triangulate your information, be a critical thinker. Don't take in every bit of information you hear as truth, because anybody on the internet can have a platform these days.
Yes. That's true.
But most definitely, one, if you're hearing from God on the people part, you can bounce that off of some of your trusted people and say, hey, I heard Lon and Andre talking about this about marriage. What do you guys think about that? Oh, yeah, I listened to them too. Or, oh, no, what they said was crazy.
And we might, let's just be honest, we might say some crazy stuff.
that's the price of ministry. You're
That
going to
is
say
true.
something
Right.
bad every now and then.
That is true. That is true.
But the responsible thing is when we're told we're crazy, we repent
Yes,
and we
do.
learn. Right.
That's why we always say, please tell us your comments. Please tell us we off, because once again, we, like I say, even though we've been doing it for almost 30 years, we know that our way, doesn't apply to everybody, but we do try to make it general enough where we feel like, okay, well, what we're saying, it's not just from experience, but it's also, from these very tools that we're talking about, ministry leadership, conferences, books, just allowing other people to pour into our lives.
Yeah. And we didn't do a whole lot of that. I think you started going to conferences before I did.
I went to, when we were going through tough transitions,
Yeah.
I was looking for every marriage retreat or something, because I wanted to try to figure out, okay, how do I get better at this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah. Now, since we're talking about books, I'm sure our pastor's not going to consider it a shameless plug.
No, it's a
but our pastor, Pastor Corey Person, he's written a book.
Yeah, it's called "What Is Your Communication DNA?"
An amazing book. He's also a relationship coach, counselor, whatever you want to call it. But he can counsel couples. But this is how this book was born. Okay, this book was born out of all of the counseling that he has done for other couples. So the book is available on Amazon. And we actually will be talking to our Pastor Corey Person about this book, because once again, it's got a lot of good advice for couples, especially when you're talking about communication.
Yeah.
Because that's a really big thing. I feel like most of the problems that we encounter in marriage, most of it stems from communication. If we can get our communication together, or if we can kind of understand where one spouse is coming from or how they're interpreting information, that helps us in so many different other areas of our marriage.
Yeah, in business, a long time ago in engineering, you go through sort of the project management, process, and they tell you that every problem is a communication problem.
Yeah.
That at the root of every issue, every problem, every setback, every error, there was some communication breakdown, whether it's in the listening, the understanding, conveying information, whatever have you. And what's really, really powerful about the book is that it helps you understand your communication style. And so you can better understand your spouse's communication style. And so you can avoid those misfires of communication, whether you're a feeling type person or you're a facts oriented person, you can now start to understand the point of view of the person that you're communicating with, so you can better take in the information and process it correctly.
Yeah.
So definitely recommend the book. We'll have a link in here on Amazon where you can get to it. And we will have Pastor Corey Person on here for an interview so you can get in depth about your communication DNA.
Yeah, I think we have questions. I think I'm the feeler.
You are the feeler,
and
I'm the facts
person,
guy. I'm the information. It's all facts, not feelings with me, unfortunately. And I sometimes see tasks and I don't see people. That's my flaw.
True. He's gotten better, though. I mean, really. I feel like the older we've gotten and the longer we've been married, we've started to switch a little. Where you do have a little bit more feeling. I'm trying to be more factual. I am, people. I really am. I speak in generalities. But I recognize that my husband does need facts. And so, like I said, and Pastor Corey's been pretty good about helping us too. Like I said, him and his wife, Lady Mary, are definitely a part of our support system, in our marriage, and I want, before we get to this last part, which I also think can kind of lead us to support system success keys, is it doesn't matter how long you've been married.
It does not.
Okay.
It does not.
You still need support.
Yeah.
Okay. It can't be like, oh, I've been married 30 years and I've been married 40 years. When you listen to couples, that have been married for 75 years, they're still going to talk about a support system. And they need a whole completely different support system because they're a lot older now.
Right.
So once again, that support system looks different from somebody who's been married for 75 years, but they still need a support system.
Yeah.
So the support system, to me, never goes away. That's why you have to know how to build it right. And even if you build it wrong, you can still build it again.
Yes, you can.
Because there have been quite a few times we probably built, like I said, we didn't even build it. So I felt like we was even wrong in the first place for not even really building it. And then when we tried to build it, some people didn't work, and we had to go back and be like, okay, now what do we do?
Yeah.
So once again, it's okay if you don't have one right now. We're just suggesting that you figure out how to get one. If you built it wrong,
start to rebuild it. Just start to rebuild it, and don't throw away what's in there, because there's some good in what you have.
Absolutely.
Just start to evaluate it. Really look at, okay, where are we trying to be both collectively and individually? And let's start to think about the people we need in our circle to really help develop us in those areas.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's simple. Sometimes it's hard to find trustworthy. You can go a whole lifetime and have one good friend, or maybe two good friends. But what's great about being people of faith is that you're always surrounded by people of faith. So there's always potential candidates for you to tap into.
There's always potential candidates.
Always potential.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to just sort of highlight too is when you're looking for people, and we just talked about couples that have been married for a long time, and I use this analogy a lot. There's a difference between someone who's had 50 years of experience in marriage versus someone who took 1 or 2 years of experience and repeated it for 50 years.
Yeah, no, that's real
okay,
talk.
let me say that again.
Can we talk about that again?
Yeah. Someone who's got 50 years of experience in marriage versus someone who took 1 or 2 years and just repeated that for 50 years, right? And what do I mean by that? You will have couples that, have been married for 50, 60 years. They have a routine. They have a process they go through, but they're living like roommates.
Yeah.
They're 75 years old, and they're used to each other, but it's not really sure if the love is there.
Mm-hmm.
They don't speak of each other like they're in love. They're just kind of partners versus when we look at someone like Pastor James and Don Carlos, up until the moment he passed away, they were in love.
They were in love.
They were in love with each other. And to see him, I mean, he was a sharp brother, sharp dresser, but gray. His hair was gray as my beard, right? He used to have it whipped to the side and he used to compliment her. Like, he would see her walking and he would just be captivated by her,
absolutely.
And he would say, I just want to be next to you. I just want to be wherever you are, just saying those things. And so once again, be very discerning, because longevity, repeating just 1 or 2 years for 50 years is different from really developing over 50 years. So,
I'm so glad you brought that point out, because you think about when our parents got married. You would hear a lot of couples, they were like, oh yeah, we're just gonna stay together. Why? Because their generation, it was just like divorce just didn't happen.
Yeah.
The man and the wife would get married, she'd be the housewife, she'd have kids. And even if they, like you said, they eventually became roommates, and they just kind of stayed together, not because they loved each other, but like you said, it's that repeatability. It's just like, okay, this is all we know, and so we don't know anything different. I've known you all my life. We got married when we were 17. So like you said, now that we 75, I mean, what else we gonna do?
Right. We just developed a pattern there, versus,
That's real good. I'm glad you brought that part out.
Yeah. So then how can we ensure success with these things? And some of these things we covered already, right? So really, when we're looking for the tools in terms of people, hearing from God is important. So it's just as important. It's a success key that God is involved in the whole affair, that we need to be hearing from God when it comes to the people in our lives, when it comes to the things we need to change. Because what I found, me personally, there are things that I think I'm okay with, that God will call me into account and say, that behavior is not good.
Yeah.
You are hurting and you don't even realize it, right? Or what you're doing is toxic. You may be able to deal with it right now, but long term, that behavior will not sustain you for any period of time. So I get called into account for those things. But that's only because I spend time with God, hearing about, okay, my marriage, my life, my situation, my personal things, all of those issues.
And I think you have to also be open to how God will bring you the message.
Yeah.
Because, I think we're going to talk about in a minute how you let it develop organically. But once again, God can use anybody, because sometimes, like you said, we tend to discount people, especially when God is just trying to make us better. I remember my daughter, Hannah, she was 2. And I was so mad at our son, AJ. I was mad. I put him in his room and I was like, and don't you come out. I was just that mad at him. And then here comes Hannah, 2 years old. Okay, 2 years old. And she's like, Mommy, you must forgive him. I'm like, who in the world?
Right.
First of all, like I said, I know it's my 2-year-old daughter, but even that level of language.
Yeah.
And so this is what's even deeper about it. So I was getting ready to take her off my lap, and then she like grabbed my face with those 2 little hands, and she made me look at her like eye to eye, like we're actually peer to peer, She was like, no, Mommy, you must go in there and you must forgive him. And at that point, I knew it was Jesus. I was like, okay, this isn't my 2-year-old trying to tell me what to do because she's sassy. No, this is my 2-year-old saying, okay, Mom, I knew it was God saying to me, I needed to go in and figure out how to not to be so mad with my 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of step back and just listen to that. So why am I sharing that? Because God can use anybody, especially when he's trying to correct behavior.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, that's really what God was doing. Because I felt like as his mom, I could be righteously angry and I could be and I could hold on to it. But here's this 2-year-old that's saying, no, you don't get to hold on to that. And to me, that applies even in marriage.
Yeah.
I get it. Your husband messed up, but you can't be this mad at him.
Yeah.
You got to resolve this thing very quickly.
Yeah.
And so that's probably one of the things I remembered most, even about that encounter with Hannah, was that I don't get the option to hold on to being mad.
Yeah.
That forgiveness is key.
Yeah.
And she said that to me, so I had to forgive very quickly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hannah had a lot of insight. She had a lot of spiritual insight for a young person. It's like a 2-year-old using the word forgive and knowing what it means. That's something special in and of itself. But no, it is. It's our kids have taught me lessons as well, and I don't want to turn this into a 50-minute episode. So, so what else? We have letting it develop organically.
Yeah. What does that mean?
So that means don't force it. I want to sing that old 70s song if it don't fit, but that ain't appropriate for this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about the lyrics.
Yeah, but don't force it, right?
Now it's in my mind.
Yeah. Here we go. Time out. Flag on the play. No,
my gosh.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So let it develop organically, and I've both experienced this, and I've also been a perpetuator of this in a sense that, you really identify a person and you want to be in relationship with that person. So you do creepy things to try to make that relationship.
That is true. I've done that before.
Yeah, to develop quicker.
Manipulation.
Yeah, you manipulate stuff. You do all kinds of weird things. And,
Yeah.
and the infamous, God said you're my such and such. And I'm not saying God doesn't say that to people, but in church sometimes you have women walk up to married men and say, God say you my husband. And like, God didn't tell you that mess.
Somebody say he's something.
God didn't say
Ma'am,
that. Right?
Take a host.
We've
been together for 30 plus years.
But even if God said it, let it develop in God's time.
Absolutely.
If God said it, he will facilitate it.
Yes.
So don't be like Sarah. If just because God said it, then you go out and try to manufacture it.
Yeah.
Right. So if God said it, he will do it.
Absolutely.
And have faith that he'll do it. And if he says this person's going to be in your life and they're going to be an influence, allow that to develop the way he's described it.
And what I love too about it, developing organically, is that it'll be diverse.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we try to hook up, we try to make our circle with people who are just like us.
Yeah, hook up means something in this whole generation, so we're gonna rewind. Hooking up, right?
No hooking up.
We try to connect.
We try to connect with people who are like us.
Yeah.
But once again, developing it organically is, different races, you know,
different backgrounds, different social statuses.
It's all of that.
Yeah.
You know, so once again, allow God to create your support system so it can be diverse.
And then most of all, we want to make sure that in whatever circle network that there's just as much investment as there is withdrawal.
Yes.
It can be a quick failure if the only reason, it's very obvious to people too, when you try to get a relationship just to get something out.
Yeah.
You know, okay, I'm going to establish a network just to get a job. I'm going to establish a network just to get something out.
Yeah.
Rather than establishing a community that we're jointly pouring in, withdrawing, depositing, withdrawing, doing all of that to keep the community healthy. That's better.
Yeah.
And it works, and it's cyclical, and there's resources to draw from because we're depositing and not just withdrawing.
Yeah.
Just make sure that you invest. You know, there may be a couple that you run into or a person that you run into. It may not be that they can help you immediately, but you can help them.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you never know what skill, capability, or area of mastery they have that may come up later in your relationship and say, wow, we thought we were helping you, but you guys know how to do so-and-so.
Yeah.
And we've been trying to, you guys know how to travel.
Yeah,
We've been trying to figure out the travel thing. So tell us about, how to do, the cheat code for traveling.
Yeah.
And so just make sure you have the mindset of developing my relationship. It needs to be mutual. It's not just man.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that, and it can be pretty toxic. You identify a person, that person has skill, that person has capability. Man, that person could be really good for my so-and-so. This person could be really good in my such and such. And it's like now you've already defined a relationship by me, what I can get, what they can do, how they can help me propel my ministry, my situation, whatever have you. That's the wrong foot.
I think when we do that too, the relationship doesn't really develop the way God wants it to. So sometimes it's short-lived because when a person realizes that you're just in it for all of the withdrawals, then they just back away very quickly. They're like, yeah, okay, I know God wanted me to connect with them, but now they want to back away because it's exhausting for them.
It is. And, the thing about it is divine appointments preserve no matter what, right? And so there are relationships that may start off bad that end up good.
That's what I was going to say, too. That goes back to, like I said, if I messed it up, God will show you how to go back and repair it. He was like, okay, no, I'm not saying quit that, but I am going to show you how to go back and now repair that relationship because they're vital to what it is that I have you to do next.
All right. So that's all we got. We got the success keys. We got, what else did we have over here? We had the tools. Yeah. There we go. Our memory's getting better. Right. We need memory. Right. That's what we need on the list. Tools, success keys. Like the video, please share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell for notifications as we come to you in Safehouse. We want to make sure that we're hearing from you, so please, please, please provide comments below on this episode and other episodes, things you're going through in your life. We want to hear from you. What say you about this topic?
Because we know you guys have a lot.
You do.
To say, because we have a lot to say. And so, like I said, and that helps us to grow.
It does.
Like I said, we don't want to be just the ones giving out the information, we want to be able to, to grow too. Because like you said, we're pioneers. So it's still things that we're figuring out too. So like I said, that's the whole point of Safehouse, iron sharpens iron, that's why we do this.
That's why we do this.
Yes.
So with that, y'all, we are out of here.
Another episode
is done. It's in the books. All right.
Yeah.
So you see this woman over here now, she's got a different level of confidence. When we first started, I started the camera and she was looking like a deer in the headlights, and now she's singing and shimmying over here doing her little song. So
we love you guys so much.
And peace.